Hello there. Welcome to the Data Radio Show Holiday Specials. Well, I say specials, they're not really super special. I mean, everything we do is kind of special. You know what? I'm just rambling. Here's what's going on. Over the holiday period, we're going to be releasing content every day that's been created by Notebook LM, which is a tool that Google has that basically takes a whole bunch of information and finds a way to disseminate it in a really simple way for people to understand and then present it as a podcast. So we're giving it a bit of a test based on our Data Pro newsletter, which is completely free to sign up to. You can do that. It's in the description down below if you haven't done so already. So we've taken our newsletters from throughout the year and we've created these podcast episodes using Notebook LM. It's a really fascinating experience to see how they differentiate the information that's in there. So have a listen, see what you think of it, and don't forget to subscribe, share, tell everybody about what's going on, but also make sure that you spend some time to yourself these holidays and enjoy the season. We'll be back soon with some fantastic new episodes, but until then, check out this one.
Hey everyone, ready for a deep dive into some pretty big changes happening in data engineering?
Always up for a deep dive.
Well, today we're looking at this really interesting article from datapro.news.
Oh, yeah, I know Data Pro. It's like the site for all things data and AI. What's the article called?
It's called Data Engineering in 2024.
Okay, gotcha. Anything in particular that caught your eye?
Yeah, actually, right off the bat, they compare the AI revolution to, get this, World War II.
World War II. Whoa, that's a pretty big comparison, don't you think?
Right. Like, is AI really that big of a deal?
I mean, AI is definitely changing things up fast, that's for sure.
Exactly. So that's what we're going to unpack today.
Sounds good to me.
Okay, so the article kicks off by talking about all the huge tech advances that happened during the war, things like radar and those early computers.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Like stuff that completely changed the world.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the article is suggesting that AI is having that same kind of world-altering impact. So what do you think? Are they exaggerating, or is this the real deal?
It's an interesting point. I think it's less about specific inventions and more about the speed and scale of change we're seeing with AI.
So you're saying it's not like AI is building tanks,
Hmm.
but it's causing a similar level of disruption in like every industry.
Yeah, pretty much. The article talks about how AI is evolving at this like crazy fast rate and it's disrupting everything. The tools we use, how we solve problems, everything.
Okay, so it's like a different kind of disruption, but just as powerful.
Yeah.
That makes sense. And, speaking of tools, the article mentions how things like ChatGPT and all those other generative AI tools are making data analysis way more accessible.
Oh, for sure. Like it's not just for the hardcore data folks anymore. Anyone can kind of jump in and play around with these tools.
Yeah, I've been experimenting with them a bit myself, and it's pretty amazing what you can do with like just a few prompts. It's like magic almost.
Right. It's super cool. Have you been using them much?
A little bit here and there. Still early days for me.
Yeah, same here, but I'm definitely keeping an eye on them.
So do you think these tools are really democratizing data, or are they just creating like a whole new set of challenges?
That's a great question. I think it's a bit of both, to be honest. Like, yeah, these AI tools are definitely making data analysis more accessible, but they don't replace the need to actually understand data? Like, data literacy is still super important.
Oh, absolutely. It's like you can have the fanciest calculator in the world, but if you don't understand the math behind it, you're going to get some wonky results.
Exactly. You still need to know how to ask the right question, interpret the results you're getting from the AI.
So it's like these AI tools can be super powerful, but also super misleading if you're not careful.
Yep. And that's where data professionals come in. Their expertise is even more important now with all this AI stuff happening.
Okay, so let's shift gears a bit and talk about how the whole field of data engineering is changing. The article has this really vivid day in the life story about a data engineer in 2024. His name is, wait for it, Peter Parker.
No way, like Spider-Man.
I know, right? What are the chances? But yeah, it's like a glimpse into what our jobs might look like in the future.
That's cool. What's Peter's day like?
Okay, so he starts his day by checking all these cloud-based data pipelines.
Oh, yeah, making sure everything's flowing smoothly.
Right. Then he's working with the machine learning team to like tweak a recommendation engine using a no-code platform.
No code. Interesting.
I know, right?
Yeah.
It's wild how things are changing. Then, later on, he's using all these advanced tools to troubleshoot some data quality issues.
Yeah.
And get this, he even designed some edge computing architecture for those, Internet of Things devices.
Edge computing. No, that's next level stuff. So it seems like the role of a data engineer is getting even more diverse.
Definitely. And
Huh.
that actually ties into some of the article's key takeaways.
Oh, what are those?
They talk about how cloud-native services are making data management way simpler, how data ops is leading to these more like agile and collaborative workflows, and how edge computing is totally changing the way we collect and analyze data.
Those are some pretty big trends.
I know, right? So let's break each one down a bit. What do you think about this whole shift towards cloud-native solutions?
Well, it's definitely a big change from how things used to be, that's for sure. Like, instead of having to manage your own data centers, which, let's be honest, can be a real pain, you're basically renting the infrastructure from these cloud providers like AWS or Azure.
Yeah, like Google Cloud.
Yeah, exactly. And they
Yeah.
take care of all the servers and storage and all that complicated stuff.
So you can just focus on actually building your data applications.
Exactly. And it makes data engineering more accessible, right? You don't need to invest tons of money in hardware up front.
That's a great point. So it's kind of like outsourcing the hard part of infrastructure management.
Exactly. Plus, it makes scaling up or down way easier too.
But I'm guessing there are some downsides too, right? It can't all be sunshine and rainbows.
Oh, for sure. One thing to be careful of is vendor lock-in. Like once you build your stuff on one specific cloud platform, it can be tricky to switch to a different one if you need to.
Oh, yeah. I see how that could be a problem.
And there's also the learning curve, of course. All these cloud technologies, they come with their own set of quirks and things you got to learn.
Right. So you're basically trading one set of challenges for another.
Yeah, that's fair to say. But overall, I think the benefits outweigh the drawbacks.
Okay, so cloud native is definitely shaking things up. What about data ops? The article makes it sound like it's all about teamwork and automation.
It is. Think of it like, DevOps, which is common in software development, but for data engineering.
So it's like bringing those same principles of collaboration and automation into the data world.
Yep. It's about breaking down those silos between data engineers and data scientists and everyone else who works with data.
So it's getting everyone on the same page and working together more smoothly.
Precisely. And a big part of data ops is automation. Automating all those tedious tasks like data testing and deployment.
Right, so you can spend less time on those repetitive tasks
Yeah.
and more time on the stuff that actually matters.
Exactly. It's about making the whole data process faster, more efficient, and less error prone.
That sounds like a win-win for everyone.
Yeah.
Okay, so last trend the article talks about is edge computing. That one sounds kind of futuristic to me, if I'm being honest.
It is pretty cutting edge. It's all about changing where the data processing happens.
So instead of sending all the data to a central location like a data warehouse.
Right. With edge computing, you process the data closer to where it's actually generated, like on a device itself or a local server.
I'm trying to picture that. Why is that so important? What's the advantage of doing it that way?
Well, think about things like self-driving cars or fraud detection systems. Those need real-time decision making.
Right, you can't afford to have any delays.
Exactly. So by processing the data right there at the edge, you cut down on that lag time. Plus, you can save on bandwidth costs too.
So it's all about speed and efficiency, especially for those applications where every millisecond counts.
Yep. But of course, there are challenges with edge computing too, like managing and securing data across a ton of different devices can be a real headache.
Right, I can imagine.
And you also have to figure out how to integrate edge computing with your existing cloud infrastructure.
So it's a whole new set of things for data engineers to think about.
It is, but it also opens up so many possibilities for innovation. It's pretty exciting.
Wow, we've covered a lot already.
Yeah.
We've talked about how AI is disrupting the whole data world, the importance of understanding data, even with all these cool tools, and how data engineering itself is changing with things like cloud native, data ops, and edge computing.
It's definitely a dynamic field to be in right now.
That's for sure. But hey, there's one more thing I wanted to mention from the article. It talks about this platform called Perplexity AI. It's supposedly an answer engine that's designed to address this problem of AI hallucinations.
AI hallucinations. Now that sounds interesting. What's that all about?
It's like, have you ever asked an AI a question and it gives you an answer that sounds totally legit but is completely made up?
Oh, yeah. It's like the AI is pulling stuff out of thin air. You can be kind of freaky.
Exactly. And it's a big concern as we become more reliant on AI for, getting information and making decisions.
Right. We need to be able to trust the information we're getting.
So how does this Perplexity AI try to solve this problem? The article mentions something about source citations.
Yeah. So what Perplexity does is it combines like a traditional search with the power of those large language models. So instead of just making stuff up, it actually searches the web for relevant info from credible sources. And then it gives you those citations along with its answer.
Oh, that's pretty clever. It's like having a research assistant that shows you their work.
Exactly. It's all about transparency and building trust in AI, which I think is super important.
It definitely seems like a step in the right direction. So after diving into all of this, do you think the article's comparison to World War II holds up? Is AI really that disruptive?
That's a tough one. I wouldn't necessarily say it's about tanks and bombs, but it's definitely a similar level of like societal and technological upheaval.
So AI is fundamentally changing how we live and work and everything in between.
I think that's a fair assessment.
And for data professionals, it's changing everything from our roles to the tools we use to the skills we need.
Yep. And it's even forcing us to think about ethics and responsibility in a whole new way.
Right, like what happens when AI starts making decisions that impact our lives in really big ways. But hey, before we get too deep into that, I have one more tidbit from the article. They did a poll asking their readers if they agree that AI is as disruptive as World War II.
Oh, that's interesting. What do people say? I'm curious to know.
Well, we'll have to save those poll results for part 2 of our deep dive.
All right, you've got me hooked. I can't wait to hear what people think.
Stay tuned.
So you left me hanging with that poll. I gotta know, what did people think about comparing AI to World War II?
Right. Well, get this. The article said that 55% agreed with the comparison.
So a slight majority.
Yeah, but 45% disagreed, so it's pretty divided.
That makes sense. It's not exactly a black and white issue.
Totally. And honestly, after digging into all this, I can see both sides.
Me too.
Like, I get why people are making the connection. Both World War II and the AI revolution are periods of, like, crazy fast tech advancements.
Right, and they've both totally reshaped society.
But at the same time, it feels kind of iffy to put them on the same level. World War II is, a horrific war. Millions of people died.
Yeah, that's true. It's hard to compare that to AI, which, while it's disruptive, has the potential to do a lot of good too.
Exactly. But I think what the article was getting at is the feeling that we're at the beginning of something huge, like a whole new era.
Right, just like the world was after World War II.
And for us data people, it's important to remember that we're not just watching this happen from the sidelines.
Oh, definitely not. We're the ones building the AI systems, the infrastructure, the whole thing.
Exactly. Which means we have a lot of responsibility to make sure it's used for good.
Absolutely. And the article briefly touched on this, but I think it's worth emphasizing that data professionals need to constantly be learning and adapting.
Yeah, with things changing so fast, it's not enough to just know the basics anymore.
Nope. Those are still important, of course, but now you got to layer on top of that cloud computing, AI algorithms, data viz tools. It's a lot.
So the role of a data engineer is becoming much more interdisciplinary, it sounds like.
It really is. You have to be comfortable working with different teams, different technologies, always learning new stuff.
And that's what makes it so interesting, right?
Totally. You're at the intersection of all these different fields, solving problems that really matter.
Okay, so I'm curious, from your perspective, what are some specific skills that data engineers should focus on to stay ahead of the curve?
Well, one big one is cloud fluency. It's pretty much a must-have these days.
So not just knowing how to use a specific cloud platform, but really understanding the whole architecture, right?
Yeah, exactly. Another important skill is proficiency with AI and machine learning tools. You got to know how to work with algorithms, train models, all that good stuff.
So it's not just about preparing data for analysis anymore, but also understanding how that data is used in AI applications.
Right. And then, of course, data visualization and storytelling are becoming even more critical.
It's not enough to just crunch the numbers. You got to be able to communicate your findings in a way that people understand.
Exactly. That's how you turn data into insights that actually drive decisions.
Okay, so it sounds like data engineering is evolving from this purely technical role into something much more strategic.
I think that's a great way to put it, and it goes back to that World War II analogy, right? Just like the war created a demand for all these new skills, the AI revolution is doing the same.
So we need a new breed of data professional who can handle both the technical and the strategic sides of things.
Exactly. And that's why I find initiatives like Perplexity AI so fascinating. They're trying to address the whole trust and transparency issue with AI.
Right. The article talked about how Perplexity provides source citations for its answers to try and prevent those hallucinations we were talking about.
And it's a really smart approach, I think.
Definitely. But going back to that poll, after all this discussion, Do you think the comparison to World War II holds up? Is AI really that disruptive?
Hmm. It's tough to say. Like, I don't think it's about physical destruction in the same way, but the scale of the change, the impact on society.
Right.
I think the article has a point. It's definitely a massive upheaval.
And for data professionals, it means everything's changing. Our roles, the tools we use, the skills we need, everything.
Absolutely. And it's up to us to make sure we're using AI responsibly and ethically.
Well said. So in part 3, we'll reveal the final results of that poll and share our own takeaways from this deep dive into the world of data engineering in the age of AI. Okay, so we're wrapping up our deep dive into data engineering in the age of AI, and I know you're on the edge of your seat about those poll results.
Yeah, I'm still curious what everyone else thinks about that World War II comparison.
So the article said it was a pretty close split. 55% agreed with the comparison and 45% disagreed.
Yeah, so no real consensus there.
Nope, not really. And after everything we've talked about, I'm kind of on the fence myself.
Me too. I can see the argument for both sides.
Like, on one hand, both World War II and the AI revolution are these periods of massive tech advances that have changed. Like, everything.
Right, the way we live, work, everything. It's hard to overstate the impact.
Exactly. But on the other hand, World War II was a truly terrible event.
Yeah, a lot of people died. It was a global tragedy.
And that feels different from AI, which, sure, it's disruptive, but it also has the potential to do so much good.
Right, it's about using this incredible technology to actually solve problems and make the world better.
Exactly. But I think the article was trying to get at the feeling of being at the start of something huge.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like we're right on the edge of this whole new era, like the world was after World War II.
And for us data professionals, it's important to remember we're not just observers here.
Nope, not at all. We're building this future.
We're the ones developing the algorithms, building the systems, making all of this happen.
And that means we have a big responsibility to get it right, to think about the ethical implications, the potential consequences, all of that.
Right, like we can't just blindly chase the next cool tech without thinking about the bigger picture.
Totally. And speaking of skills, we've talked a lot about the technical stuff data engineers need to learn, like cloud computing, AI, all that. But I think there are other important qualities that are like just as crucial.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
What are you thinking of?
Well, one big one is adaptability.
Oh, absolutely. Like
Yeah.
things are changing so fast in this field.
Right. So you got to be able to constantly learn new things, new technologies, new approaches. It never stops.
So it's not just about mastering one particular tool or skill. It's more about having a growth mindset.
Exactly. Be willing to learn, be willing to change, be willing to, step outside your comfort zone.
And what else? What other qualities do you think are important?
Curiosity. I think that's huge. The best data people I know are the ones who are always asking questions, exploring new ideas, trying to figure out how things work.
It's that love of learning and that drive to understand things deeply.
Yeah, exactly. And then, of course, we can't forget about communication.
Oh yeah, being able to explain complex stuff in a way that anyone can understand, that's super important.
It's not enough to just analyze the data and find the insights. You got to be able to communicate those insights to other people in a way that's clear and compelling.
It's data storytelling, basically.
Yeah,
Making the data come alive.
exactly. So to everyone listening, remember to embrace that curiosity, be adaptable, and work on those communication skills. Those are the things that will help you succeed in this exciting and ever-changing field.
And at the end of the day, it's not just about the technology, right?
Right.
It's about how we use AI to solve real problems, to make people's lives better, to make the world a better place.
And that's something we should all be thinking about.
Absolutely. So remember to stay curious, stay adaptable, and stay engaged, because the future of data, and maybe even the future of the world, is in your hands. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.